this?
Good morning.
Oh, that's right. I'm talking from this mic. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. As Reverend Brian kicked off last week, which was the first Sunday in October, our October theme is about shadow. And that's something we typically don't talk about in our philosophy. But it is something I think that we're all familiar with, and we bump into it quite often in our personal lives and in the outer realm as well. And so what we're talking about today is going to be about shadow dancing, which sounds a little suspicious maybe. Do I really want to dance with my shadow is the question. And so, yeah, we're going to go there. So, first of all, how many of you feel like you have a sense of what a shadow is when we talk about it? Quite a few. And Reverend Brian did a great job last week in talking about, and he gave us sort of a concept to approach this in, that how do we cast shadows is that we stand between our light and our experience. So we believe that as God in expression, and God is light and love and all the incredible verities of life, absolutely present at all times with light, with love, and so forth. And then at times we sort of notice in our lives, whoa, this doesn't quite feel like light and love. What gives, right? And that's when we bump up to it. And so that's when it's sort of a clue to us that, well, this doesn't look or feel like light, so where is the light in this situation? And it's our clue that, something's going on here. And he did this wonderful pivot last week about, if this is the light, as if light had one source. And we know it does have one source. But we also know that the divine light is not a directional light. It is light that is ever present everywhere we are, from every vantage point. And so it begs the question of, well, if something's happening in my life that doesn't feel like light and love and doesn't look like light and love, and I'm not lined up with light and love in the moment that I'm experiencing this, then where is that light and how do I call it forth? And we all go through this. Anger, fear, judgments. It may be calling up some of our old stuff. Victim, that relationship that's been challenging us. And we all have these, right? I think we all do. So those are part of our keys, part of that click that goes, I'm seeing I have a shadow here. Now, Caroline Myss introduced, I've read several of her books, and I don't subscribe to Caroline Myss's ideas entirely, but I find in every book there is an incredible kernel of an idea that just really stays with me. And in one of her books, the one on archetypes, she has her own set of archetypes. So do you know what archetypes are? Archetypes are sort of, in some ways, a personality, a set of traits that each archetype has its unique set of traits. And people who work with archetypes, they have their own sets. So in other words, there isn't a universal set, although some of them sort of mimic others, and person A may have given them this label and another person may have given them another label. So for example, some examples of archetypes might be creator, teacher, warrior, lover, and so on and so forth going forward. parent. And Caroline Myss has her own set of archetypes. She says in her framework, she calls out 12 of them. But here's what's really interesting that I felt in her work. And that is, she says we all share 4 archetypes. And then after that, we have our own unique set. So it's like, we all share 4 of these. What might those be? Well, first of all, she says, child. Because we all came into this life as a child. So we all have that same frame of reference of where we started from. And for some of us, it was a happy, adventurous childhood. For some of us, it was maybe okay. For some of us, it may have been a challenging childhood in which there may be some wounded child in there. Or maybe we have a mix of childhood experiences, but we all come from child. She said the second one that we all share is that of victim. Whoa, now there's a shadow. That at points in our lives, and however it came to be, that we all have a little victim sauce mixed into our life. She said the third shadow we all share, and this really stunned me when I first heard it, is that of prostitute. And, at first we go to what we conventionally think of prostitution. And she said, no, that's only one face of prostitute. Prostitute is that place, and what it teaches us, that place of lack of trust in the divine to provide. And so prostitute is about what we do, what we compromise, what we give up, the choices we make to get what we think we need because we don't trust that it can come to us in other ways. So how many times do we see ourselves doing that? Whether it's in the workplace or wherever, where we are sacrificing or giving up something about the truth of our being because we think we have to in order to get something that we're striving for. Yeah. And then the fourth archetype that we all share is that of saboteur. Now that is quite a set. Child, victim, prostitute, saboteur. And I think we all see the potential for shadows to be in there, right? Yeah. And saboteur is, again, getting in our own way, creating that shadow, blocking our light. What are we doing to get in our way or to block something because maybe we feel we aren't worthy of having something more, so we, sort of subconsciously, unknowingly interrupt, disrupt, and throw ourselves off. Now here's another thing. So we all have that, we all share that. But let's stretch it up a moment and realize if everybody shares those, that means that every person on this planet has this going on. And from day to day, it may be at different levels of intensity. From day to day, it may be a different mix of how much of prostitute or victim or whatever is showing up. And that, for me, puts me in a totally different frame of reference. First of all, because I know these are false beliefs, they're coping mechanisms from disappointments and pains and inability to get our needs met from some earlier point. And we've woven stories around them. But if we all have this going on at the same time, as we look out at the world, especially in the last few years, We see lots of shadows being exposed to light to bring them up into view. And we see lots of shadows also acting out, right? At the individual level and at the collective level, at the tribal level. So it's like, whoa, we have this mix. And now science is telling us that our brains are somewhat hardwired to focus on the negative. But our teaching and Ernest Holmes gives us an alternative. Because what we have through this teaching is the knowledge and the tools and the understanding that, yes, this stuff may be going on. We may be facing a shadow at any point. But we know that underneath that all, it is a story that we've told ourselves. Underneath it all, it is a false belief that we have accepted as our truth. And we have the capability to tell ourselves a new story, to reshape our beliefs, and to reshape our experience. And to do that in such a way that we bring in the light. So a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times we sort of bump up against this when we're faced with change. And anything can look like change. Something that we're used to paying $4 for is suddenly $4.50, right? That's a form of change. Or something that we've been accustomed to that we, it can span such a range of impact in our lives in terms of what changes. But it's that change that is sort of catching us out and saying, whoa, wait a minute. I just got used to things being this way, and now something is shifting. And I have to catch up with it. And yet, what do we know about life? Life is all about change, right? And from this teaching, we understand that life is all about that evolutionary cycle in which we are constantly coming into a fuller expression of ourselves, a more healed and whole place within ourselves. And that happens through changing ourselves, through transformation. And so if that's the trajectory, the journey of our life, then of course we're going to be faced with change, and we're going to be faced with different types of change. And it's up to us to choose, am I willing to go along with change and be a partner here? Or do I want to, hunker in and say, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go on that journey. I don't want to take that next step, which we can. And yet we also somewhere understand, okay, putting my head in the sand and ignoring this doesn't mean that change is going to go away, right? And that's part of the story, and that's sort of self-victimizing, self-wounding in some ways. So knowing that we are God in expression, that wholeness, that goodness, that light, that love is that from which we have come forward. And we believe that that is always with us and around us and our partner. Then that starts to be an invitation to the dance floor, to do some shadow dancing. And that starts to be the invitation to say, this is not our story. It's not my story. And I get to create a new story. I get to tell myself a new story. It may not be easy. It may seem overwhelming, because we know that these things that we face that call forth those shadows, sometimes they show up simply, sometimes they show up very powerfully. And we never exactly know what we're going to greet in any given day. right? Yeah. And sometimes we have a little inkling that, all right, I see, I'm starting to detect, I have some hints here that something's ready to start shifting. But I think I have a couple more months here, or a couple more years, or, I don't really have to go there yet today. But it doesn't go away, and so it's up to us in each and every day, in each and every moment, to be back into that centered place. And to remember, yes, change is what life is all about. And if I remind myself that each change has the opportunity of me becoming a fuller, more greater expression of that which I am, of that which I have come forth from, that wholeness of being, then let me dance with my shadow. Let me recognize that, whoa, wait a minute, there's something for my benefit transpiring here. Instead of pushing it away, no. Let me say, wait a minute. The universe is sending me an invitation here. Yeah, I might be stressed. Yeah, I might be angry. Yes, I might be emotionally triggered. I may not be at my best. And we all go through that. And that is also a call for us to be in our compassionate self, understanding that we all have this journey. And we don't do it just once. It's like continual. So let's get on board with it, right? Yeah. So how do we shadow dance? Well, for one thing, a lot of times when we're in the depths of a roaring shadow, and it's really got us in pain, in fear, in anger, whatever we're experiencing with it, is to remember that we really aren't alone. So I would say not part, but most of the agony we go through is when we are focused, what I call in the 3D. And when I say 3D, I'm talking about in our outer world. When we're living in the outer world, when we're living by the outer world rules, we have disconnected, we have separated ourselves from Source. And it's all on us to make this happen, to get this done, to get this promotion, whatever it is. It's all on us. And we can only work within the limitations of who we are. And then that starts to feel more daunting. I don't have enough time in the day, or I don't know the right people, or I don't have the right credentials, or whatever that excuse is. That's part of our shadow story. Because we're focused on our small self. We're in those 4 archetypes. But then, if we say, wait a minute, I have another option here. Yeah. And what is that option? That option is to say, you know what? I can partner with God. Yes. That is the most powerful partner there is. That is the source of light. That is the source of healing. That is the source of transformation. That is the being that really is behind the scenes making everything happen. That is the partner that creates the synchronicities, that creates and introduces us to the right and perfect resource, or whatever the circumstance may be. That is the source of inspiration, that download in which we say, oh, I get it. I see what I've been doing. Now I see what my options are to go forward. What am I called to do? That vision that comes in, that is the partner that we have with God. And at that point, when we say, whoa, let's step onto the dance floor together here. Now I'm not a wallflower waiting for my life to change according to the outer circumstances. I have this partner that is forever my partner in every situation, in every moment. Always at the ready, everywhere active. And I can dance with this partner. I can dance with that shadow. I can see the story I've concocted. I can work my way forward in grace, in ease, in trust. And this is where we can stop prostituting ourselves. It's where we can say, I'm no longer a victim. This is my story now. And it's a great story. And I know that every moment I invest myself in God and this new story, it is unfolding in my life. That's how we dance with our shadow. That's how we partner with God on that dance floor. And that is how we call forth that light and get out of our way. That is the truth of our being. And I want to share the parting lines from the reading this morning, Kimberly's affirmation. Because I and we are light, and believe that spirit within each and every one of us, which is God, can make perfect and peaceful the way before us. So I invite you to join me in this affirmative prayer. We know that there is one power, one presence, one life, and one source of light. And we know that presence as God, knowing that it is everywhere present in every moment, in every situation, in every condition. We know that God is there and that we are God in expression, in oneness of being with this perfect power, this absolute presence of light and love, of goodness, of healing, of grace. We know that whatever we are facing, whatever has triggered us, that when we align with the truth of our being, that which is inherent within us, that which is our divine inheritance, that which lives within us. When we say yes, when each and every one of us says yes, we align with that presence. We partner with that absolute power that is the creator of all that is. And whatever has been created, we know that we can create anew. We can recreate. We can create a new story, a new experience, a transformation. And we can let that shadow dissolve into the light, releasing it. And knowing that God withholds nothing, we accept God's presence as that presence which renews, which restores, that heals, that expands, that blesses, that endows, that is all goodness and grace. And we know that we can call that forward at the pace at which we can move with that presence, in oneness with its guidance, in full trust with its trust in us. For as God in expression, we are forever one with this presence. Of course, we know, we feel it, we accept that of course God has our best interests at heart because we are God in expression. And who are we to say no to God? Who are we to play small? We go forward with that conviction, with that trust, with that readiness, and knowing that, yes, I accept, I say yes to my greater good. Yes, I say yes, I want to dance in this partnership into a greater expression of who I am, filled with light and releasing all that is unlike that. This is my truth. This is our truth. And this is the truth that we radiate out into the world as we be and do this. Each and every one of us in our own way, and living that forward into the greater experience for all. With grateful hearts, we say, yes, we accept, we allow, we welcome, we are ready. And we know that this is now our experience. Dance with me. I want to be your partner. Can't you see? The night is falling and I am calling. Dance with me. I shadow dance, yes, with joy, with acceptance, knowing that this is my highest and greatest calling. And for this I give thanks. And so it is.
And so it is. Amen.